All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Saturday morning, bright and early with one Greg Ehrenberg as we get ready for a little NBA action. We've got a five-gamer here, Greg. An exciting night of NBA last night, quite a few things going on. And then a good game shaping up here. Very compressed schedule, kind of tipping off everything between 7:30 and 8:30 tonight. No late games tonight, no late games tomorrow. No need for the DFS sites to cut anything off following the Ehrenberg principle. What do you got going on with this today here, Greg? It's been a hot minute since we've chatted.
Yeah, so I've already got lineups here on screen. If you guys are looking over here to the right of EMac and I, which I think it's the same way on YouTube that it shows in StreamYard here. So I've got some lineups built out here and built them for DraftKings. Obviously, SimStore, you build lineups, DraftKings, FanDuel, and Owner's Box. If you guys are looking to sign up, use one of the links we have below. Any access that you get to any Stochastic package also does come with our Discord channel, where I'm in pretty much all the time now answering questions throughout the night as different news breaks and whatnot. So one thing that I did think would be a fun way to start out the show was just to go over my overall top projected lineup. I simulated ROI, and then we'll also hit on the injury report, which is extensive tonight, EMac. Then we'll start getting into the game by game. But as of now, at first look on the slate, my number one projected lineup is Malik Monk, Alex Caruso, Jonathan Kuminga, Onyeka Okongwu, Isaiah Hartenstein, Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and then Chris Middleton there in the utility spot. And the way that these lineups are sorted is by simulated ROI in the Sims tool. So if you guys are looking for a first look lineup, that's what I have right here in the Sims tool in the contest generator. But here's why this is likely to change, EMac, because for the injury report tonight, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kobe White, Jared Allen, OG Anunoby, Keldon Johnson, Derek Jones, Dario Saric, Torrey Craig, Sasha Vezenkov, all questionable to play today. So we're definitely going to be keeping up to date on the injury report. And of course, EMac and I are going to be back later today for the Live Before Lock show with all those updates.
Absolutely. I think you missed a couple in there, Greg. Fortunately, we'll pick them up as we go game by game here. A couple other high notes. Reminder, you guys can get the NBA lineup generator. That is a standalone package now, and it is phenomenal. You can build up to 5,000 lineups in the Stochastic lineup generator. It will then hand you over many as you start to click through, select, choose, discard, keep, etc. You can export up to 20 at a time. It's a pretty good deal there. Base package gives you 500 lineups, and the full package gives you 5,000. You'll be able to do it with 500 lineups because this discards all the poor lineups, those sketchy ones that sometimes sneak in, even for those crafting 150 lineups. So definitely check that out. And that also does come with the Discord package. And as Greg said, we've been looking into that Elon Musk technology of implanting a chip in Greg, so he never is off of Discord. That little on-air production meeting, Greg. That's a surprise you haven't heard just yet, but that's from the Stochastic R&D department here. We're partnering with Elon Musk. So
there we go. Yeah, I've been looking to get one of those chips installed in me and turn me into one of those. Then I could just be like that guy on Twitter, Greg1693, and like a million numbers. Like he just become your name and then a bunch of numbers after that.
Completely. But let's dive in here to the fun. I see Stephen Leibowitz in here. Did I want to run errands this morning or catch EMac? Well, you could have done both. You still can do both because you can always pick us up on the Stochastic Podcast Network. We have the main channel, and then, of course, we have sports-specific channel, and we also have sister site Odd Shopper with its own podcast channel as well. But let's dive in here, Greg. We've got a lot of moving parts here. So many teams on back-to-backs, or a couple teams also playing tomorrow. So we'll break that down. But we have, first up, the Golden State Warriors. They are underdogs by a bucket in Atlanta. Both of these teams played last night. Golden State, again, is going to be without Chris Paul. People forget he's with the team. He's still dealing with a fractured thumb. They are also without Moody and Payton. Questionable, as you mentioned, is Saric. He did miss the last game with an illness, which was last night. We'll have to see if he's available today. I mentioned so back-to-back. They won in Memphis, 121-101. They play again Monday. Kuminga played 37 minutes last night. But it's like Coach Kerr knew there was a game today because he only played Steph Curry 32 minutes. Wiggins played 30. Draymond played 28. Clay played 27. And then you had Podziemski off the bench for 34. On the Atlanta side, Sadiq Bey tweaked his ankle last night, so he may not play tonight. You should have DeAndre Hunter back. He sat last night in anticipation of this game. He had missed about 19 games with knee issue. He played 16.4 minutes on Wednesday. Yeah, it must have been Wednesday. They won last night against Phoenix, 129-120. That was a pretty spirited game down to the end there. And then Atlanta plays again on Monday. Big minutes for Trae Young, 42. DeJounte Murray, 39. Jalen Johnson, 38. That was partly because Bey played just 16 before hurting his ankle. Off the bench, you had Bogdanovich for 34, and Okongwu had 27. Capella, the starter, 21. So a lot of moving parts here, Greg, but this is a crucial game with the 245 projected point total vying that Milwaukee-Dallas game for the tops of the night. What are the Sims telling you? What is your intuition telling you? What do you got going on for us?
Jonathan Kuminga appears to be breaking out this season. He has been extremely, extremely good as of late, and he is a young player who was well-credentialed coming into the NBA draft. He was a first-round pick. He's still only 21 years old. And if you go and just look at, and you don't want to just say like, this is what a player's done over the course of their last, 3-4 games or whatever. But if we look at even a larger sample size of Jonathan Kuminga, there are a couple of things that we should feel good about. Most notably, the Warriors have moved him into a starting role, which tells us a couple of things. Number one, he has a more secure role than he's had in the past, but also there's a degree of confidence within the Golden State organization that Jonathan Kuminga is a guy who is going to be important to them, not just for the present, but also for the future moving forward. So with him now starting and playing a bigger role over the last 2 weeks, he is now playing 36 minutes per game. And that is something that is projectable, right? We could go out and we could say that we expect Jonathan Kuminga to play big minutes as a starter for the Warriors. There are parts of his game that we've seen as of late that are certainly not sustainable. He's shooting 55% from three over the last 2 weeks. So there are things like that that are going to regress, but a lot of positives for Kuminga, which is why with him being a decent enough fantasy producer overall for the season, he's averaging over a fantasy point per minute. And then if we're going to expect him to play minutes in the mid-30s, that's how we wind with a fantasy point projection on him for 37.6. He is one of the players I'm getting most exposure to tonight.
Interesting here. So last night I had a bit of a decision point there. I like to play on some of the other sites, tertiary sites, if you will. There was $1 difference between Draymond and Kuminga. I ended up going Kuminga, and I was happy with that. I ended up using Draymond. I went with the over fantasy points. This is something also got Victor Wembanyama in that card. You want to look at some of these prediction sites, the prop sites, the daily fantasy prop sites, because when they do fantasy points, make sure their scoring is 3 for steals and blocks. And that is where players like Draymond, Wembanyama, etc. can really stand out. And sometimes, obviously, the sites are aware of it. But like last night, they only had Draymond projected for 31 fantasy points. I believe they had Victor Wembanyama was like 44.5. Those were attainable numbers for those two. And we saw both of them play relatively limited minutes in anticipation of today. But just another call out, another way to monetize the different information that we have here at Stochastic. Any other highlights focusing on the Golden State side? Elder statesman Steph Curry, perhaps a Draymond. Those guys didn't play as many minutes last night. Klay Thompson. Anything else from the Dubs?
Not really notably. I am underweight to both Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, both of them projected for just under 20% ownership. When I got 10% of Klay Thompson, only 6.7% of Draymond Green in my first run here. So I'm getting to a lot of Kuminga and then nothing really else from the Golden State Warriors. So that could change if Dario Saric is ruled out. If Saric is out, that would actually help Kuminga even more. And then maybe we could project a couple extra minutes to guys like Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. As of now, though, only Kuminga standing out from Golden State.
All right, moving over to the Atlanta side. Heavy minutes there for Trae Young and for DeJounte Murray. I believe the All-Star, I see people talking about it in chats, the All-Star first team was unveiled last night. We have a few people on tonight's slate that may feel a little bit slighted in this one. Do you want to bring any narratives in here with Atlanta or just cold hard facts?
The only narrative that I want to bring in is that Sadiq Bey is doubtful to play, which isn't really a narrative. That's more in the facts category there that you laid out for me, Mac. I'm not. I'm not a man of the narratives because the way a lot of them work is that you come up with a storyline and then you don't really know if it's going to be a positive or negative until after the game plays out. Then it seems very obvious in hindsight. It's like, oh my God, he was upset he didn't make the All-Star game, therefore he played better. But then the other side goes too, he didn't make the All-Star game, so therefore he was checked out of the game. Like these narratives, you have no clue how they're actually going to impact the players. But yeah, Trae Young was really good last night. As far as tonight's slate goes, I'm about even with the field on my initial run, project for 10% ownership. I have him in 9% of my lineups. There's nothing about Trae Young individually that I think is going to make him project better given the injury report we have right now. You know, something unexpected happened, like DeJounte Murray was ruled out, then that would change, but that's not the case I expect because DeJounte Murray isn't on the injury report. Here's what can impact Trae Young and have me getting to more exposure to him, though, EMac, and it doesn't really have anything to do with Trae Young. It's we have a lot of players on the injury report. If they are ruled out, that's going to open up additional value for us. Additional value is going to make it easier to pay up for Trae Young. So Trae Young is going to project for the same 51-ish fantasy points for us, kind of no matter what. But if we do get the scenario where other players are ruled out, those 51 fantasy points can be easier to get to if there's additional value. What I'm really eyeing right now is Onyeka Okongwu. So Sadiq Bey being doubtful and assumingly unlikely to play, you wouldn't think that has a massive impact on Onyeka Okongwu, who plays almost all of his minutes at center. But one thing we have seen the Atlanta Hawks do this year, which was not the case in the past, Okongwu and Capella are sharing the court together, and we've actually even seen them start games alongside each other. So with Sadiq Bey being doubtful, it opens up the possibility for Capella and Okongwu to start together. I do think that DeAndre Hunter is going to start but play limited minutes, so I don't think that's going to be the case, but it's a possibility. But then even if we do see Okongwu come off the bench, I do expect he's going to play some minutes alongside Clint Capella tonight because Sadiq Bey is not expected to play. So that's where Onyeka Okongwu at low ownership does stand out to me as a contrarian value option.
All righty. Anything else from Atlanta that you would like to mention here?
No, nothing else. The only player I'm really significantly overweight to the field to or any kind of stand on is Okongwu. We hit on the Sadiq Bey news. Okongwu is the guy who benefits to me the most.
Okay. Let's continue on here before we take a little break for some housekeeping. We have our next game up. It is the Sacramento Kings in Chicago taking on the Bulls. Kings underdogs by a bucket. That was a little bit surprising to me. Dug into that a little bit more. 229.5 implied point total here. I'm suspecting it's because the Kings are on a back-to-back and a 3-4 here, whereas Chicago last played Wednesday. They don't play again until Tuesday, so kind of an island game here for them. But I would have figured that this would be slightly positive for the Kings. We'll have to wait and see what ultimately shakes out here. But again, back-to-back and 3-4 here for the Kings. They did win last night in Indiana, 133-132. They play again on Monday. Last night we saw Harrison Barnes, known as the Barnacle of the Bay, for those of you that were around during COVID times. He played a whopping 37 minutes. You had Sabonis and Fox each play 35. Kevin Huerter played 30. Keegan Murray played 28. And then off the bench, you had Malik Monk with 27. He also had an impressive two-hand dunk coming in from the baseline there that I saw on Twitter. So the Chicago side, they're still without Zach Attack. He is out for likely for through the All-Star break. It's my guess. They pushed him for another week and a half, so we'll have to see. But he's dealing with that sore foot. He has missed 7 games. Patrick Williams has been out for the last 4. He is dealing with the foot issue as well. He is likely to be out for another week and a half. Then you have Dalen Terry is doubtful with an ankle injury, and then Kobe White questionable. Ankle soreness. Now, again, we haven't seen them since Wednesday. My suspicion is he is going to play tonight. So that will make things a little bit more interesting because he has really stepped things up, as has Ayo Dosunmu in the absence there of Levine. We have one of our All-Star snubs here. How did Domantas Sabonis not make the All-Star starting 5? Feels bad considering he is the rebound king, led the league in rebounds last year, doing the same this year, Greg. Feels like he's going to want to get a triple-double tonight. I'm saying this for Sean B. I see he's in chat. How do you feel about the Kings? And I know you said no narratives, but come on. We need some.
Yeah. So the thing there's a couple of things that stand out to me about the Kings, and they have seemingly made some alterations to the rotation. It started with Kevin Huerter moving into the starting lineup, but also we're seeing big minutes out of Harrison Barnes lately. And then we also saw big increased playing time out of Malik Monk last night. We got 27 minutes out of Malik Monk, and his playing time was hovering in the teens prior to last night's game. So Sasha Vezenkov was out last night. He is listed as questionable to play, so that is definitely something that could end up impacting some of the playing times here. We saw Keegan Murray struggle last night. He only played 28 minutes. So I do think it's twofold Malik Monk's playing time right now. And I do think that at first look, we might be a little bit too high on Malik Monk, which is why I'm getting to 55% exposure to him. I do think we could probably dial back his minutes a little bit. Here's the reason why, because some of this is based on the projections based on his minutes from last night where he played 27 minutes, but we only got 28 minutes out of Keegan Murray. And the reason Keegan Murray only played 28 minutes is because he only made one of his shots from the field. He couldn't get anything to fall. Malik Monk played really well off the bench. So with that being the case, Malik Monk scoring 23 points last night, also added 5 rebounds, 6 assists. The Kings just opted to go more with Malik Monk than play Keegan Murray. I don't think that's going to be the case for the foreseeable future or anything like that. I do think Keegan Murray maintains his spot playing bigger minutes. So Malik Monk is still somebody who I view as being an appealing option off the bench for the Kings. I just think right now we might be giving him a couple too many minutes here. And then outside of that, there isn't too much that stands out for the Kings. The issue that I have with Domantas Sabonis is twofold, EMac. Number one, he's very expensive, and at least as of now, there isn't a ton of value on the slate. And the other issue, too, is that he is only center eligible. You combine that with it being the tail end of a back-to-back, and right now he looks a little bit thin, but that could change if more value opens up later. It's just kind of hard to get up to the most expensive options right now because of the lack of value.
Did he end up sliding back to, I don't have FanDuel, but did he slide back to center only on FanDuel again?
On FanDuel, I think Sabonis is power forward and center.
Okay.
I'll pull it up.
Just checking in there, since that does help over on the blue side. They've relaxed a few players.
Yeah, he is 10,400 power forward and center eligible. But the other issue also that we could potentially run into with Sabonis on FanDuel is he's priced right in between Anthony Davis and LeBron James. They are both questionable to play. If LeBron is out and AD is in, I'd rather play AD than Sabonis. If AD is out and LeBron is in, I'd rather play LeBron than Sabonis. If both of them are out, well, then we just got a bunch of value. It's easier to get to Sabonis. So there are a lot of issues with where he's priced right now. And that's the main reason why. I mean, he's not showing up in any of my lineups at the moment.
All righty. Anything else you want to touch on here for the Kings? Perhaps little De'Aaron Fox, Keegan Murray, etc.
No, nothing else about the Kings. I have a bunch of exposure to Malik Monk at the moment and nothing else from Sacramento. My Monk exposure is certainly going to go down by the time we get later into the day, though.
All right. Let's hit on the other side here. Let me get back to my notes page here. So Bulls, again, this is a true island game. They've got a couple days off prior to this, couple days off after. So we should be getting the best of the best. Sands, Levine, and Patrick Williams. What are you thinking here for Chicago? We know that Sacramento likes to run a little bit more. We've seen the Bulls kind of slightly pick things up a little bit here, even with the aging DeMar DeRozan out there in the mix. It's been kind of interesting here. Are the Sims picking up anybody on either side for the Bulls?
Yeah, so the Bulls are one of the teams I currently get the most exposure to. And there's a handful of guys that are popping up in here. It is DeMar DeRozan in 42% of my lineups, Vooch in 39%, Caruso in 36%, DeSumo right now in 22% of lineups. So for the Chicago Bulls, I know that Zach LaVine has been out for, let's see, how long has LaVine been out for now?
7 games.
7 games. So even though he's been out for an extended period of time, there hasn't been an aggressive pricing change on these Bulls guys, even though they're clearly benefiting from the absence of LaVine. Something else to consider, Kobe White is questionable to play tonight. Torrey Craig's also questionable. That's not really all that significant. But if
Craig
Kobe
hasn't
White
played in forever, I will believe it when I see it. I'm taking the Maximilian Kleber approach. He's due to come back, Greg, but I'll believe it when I see it.
And yeah, either way, like I was saying, he's listed as questionable on the injury report. It makes no real significant difference to me. But LaVine being out and the pricing has never changed here. That matters. Another thing also here that is going to play a pretty big factor to me is that Kobe White is questionable to play. If he's out in addition to Zach LaVine, there's no way to expect anything other than massive usage to go to DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic. So I think this is one of the best teams to target on the slate as of right now. And it's, at the moment, not a ton of ownership going here. We've got 25% expect to go to DeRozan, 20% to Vooch, 20% to Caruso, 26% to Dosunmu is the most popular player on the team. I love everything on the Bulls right now.
Okay. Do you think any of them will start to slide back as we get some other news here? Is there anything that could put a dent in it, or are these guys going to kind of be foundational plays across your lineups?
No, nothing else. It's just, I mean, the Bulls, this is the team I have the most exposure to right now.
All righty. Let's take a moment here to give a shout out to Bet365, presenting sponsor today. If you pop on over to the YouTube description, you will notice that I have now added in the Bet365 promo link there, so you guys can get that. I'm also going to drop the landing page over here for Stochastic into the chat. You can check out all of the pertinent information there for Bet365. But key things you want to know: you put in $5 on that site, you'll make a wager, win or lose, you're going to get 150. They are in some specific states. That would be Kentucky, Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Iowa, Colorado, Louisiana, and now Indiana and Arizona are live. So you guys can check them out over there. They're continually expanding the states in which they offer their sports book, but that is Bet365 because, 365 days a year. This year you can bet 366 days a year because there is a leap year, but enjoy, have fun, turn 5 into 150, win or lose. Please note that you need to be 21 or older in most states to gamble. In Kentucky, you only have to be 18. If you or anybody you know has a gambling issue, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Greg, we're on the halfway point of our show already, but we're going with the best game of the night. You've got the Milwaukee Bucks. Did I write that correctly? 5-point favorites in Dallas, taking on the Mavericks. The only person missing potentially for the Bucks is going to be Jackson. He is dealing with the sore wrist. Otherwise, they should be good to go. They last played Wednesday. They are one of the teams that plays tomorrow. They will be in Utah. Dallas, on the other hand, is missing Dante Exum. He will be out for a third consecutive game with a knee issue. Kyrie Irving is looking like he will miss fifth or sixth game. I've sort of lost track there, but he is still dealing with a thumb problem, and he is listed as doubtful. You also have Derek Lively. Got bopped in the nose, nasal fracture. He has missed one game. Good chance he misses today. And then Derek Jones Jr. has missed the last 3 games with a wrist issue, questionable, trending towards a return. And then probable, you have Luka, who sat out the last game managing that ankle soreness that he's had. And then Maximilian Kleber is probable with the old proboscis there. He got bopped in the nose as well, Greg. But this is the marquee matchup of the night. All sorts of goodness here. We may not have enough money to comfortably roster Antetokounmpo and Luka in lineups. We will see how that shakes out. You can find out more tonight at 6:30 when we do the NBA Live Before Lock. But Greg, talk to us here about the Bucks.
Yeah, so as far as the Bucks go, it's hard to pay up for Giannis. It's hard to pay up for Damian Lillard. Neither of them project particularly great relative to their salaries. The player I'm getting the most of right now is Chris Middleton. That's just because he's priced in the mid-range, and we are seeing his minutes as being something much more comfortable as being a guy who's on a full workload. The Bucks were really, really slow to bring along Chris Middleton this year. For the first, I don't know how long, 2 months of the season, something like that, he wasn't even touching 25 minutes on most nights. But now, the last stretch of games, we got 34 minutes out of Chris Middleton against the Bucks last time out. There was a game against Denver. He played 30 minutes, but that was due to foul trouble. The game before that, 36 minutes against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So it does look like in competitive games, which this game has a 4.5-point spread, so I'm expecting it to be competitive, that we're getting 34 to 36 minutes out of Chris Middleton. And now, if that is going to be his workload moving forward, he's a little bit underpriced. So in the mid-range, I like getting to Chris Middleton. There's nothing else that really stands out from the Bucks, especially with everybody else healthy.
All right, then let's slide on over to the Mavericks here. Luka, phenomenal, having a borderline all-star campaign. He is one of those top 6 or so fantasy producers, along with Giannis there. But salaries have been catching up with everybody. Luka has been just dominating the usage, even getting his when Kyrie Irving has been out. Of course, Irving unlikely to play tonight, so we should see ample amounts of Luka. And how are the Sims getting to Luka, and then any ancillary plays from this game?
So something else when we talk about pay up options for the slate is that we have Luka, right? So this is what's most important. Before you're asking me about Domantas Sabonis, asking me about Giannis, and none of these guys can hold a candle to Luka's projection for tonight because Kyrie Irving isn't expected to play. With Kyrie Irving being listed as doubtful, initially he was questionable. Now he's doubtful for tonight. We have Luka Doncic, EMac project for 72.83 fantasy points. He's the pay up guy. And even if there isn't adequate value on the slate, I would be willing to play shitty punt guys who are projected for like 14, 15 fantasy points to enable me to get up to Luka. So that's the reason why right now, Luka is the premier spend-up option on this slate. So I don't really get to Domantas Sabonis in lineups. Don't get to Giannis. Luka's somebody I can't go without on the slate. He's currently in 2/3 of my lineups. And there's a whole bunch of other value that looks good from Dallas as well. Rashawn Holmes started last game with Derek Lively out. But I can't believe that Derek Lively was able to return a couple games ago. He got hit in the face by Wendell Carter Jr., and it was apparent immediately that his nose was broken. It was bleeding. It was twisted sideways. You immediately saw his eyes start to get black and blue as well. And he stayed in the game just to help my fantasy team. I'm pretty sure there was no other reason he stayed in other than for that purpose. But he's missed a couple of games since then. So if Rashawn Holmes is going to be starting tonight, certainly somebody looks like a good value option on the low end. Josh Green's been playing bigger minutes. Maxi Kleber is not somebody who projects particularly well for us, but he's somebody who makes his way into a good amount of lineups right now just because he is cheap and he enables me to pay up for Luka. So Kleber, Josh Green, Rashawn Holmes, Luka, these are all core plays for me tonight.
All righty. Are we ready to head on to game number 4 here, Greg?
Let's do it.
Let's maneuver our way to game number 4. Just a quick reminder for all of you, you're going to want to look into getting that old stochastic avatar on your logo or as your logo on your DFS sites of choice. You get a couple different benefits from that. We'll talk about one in a moment, but the most immediate one here is, I'll drop that into chat. The most immediate one there is you can get into the Stochastic Hall of Fame. If you finish top 3 in any contest of 5,000 entries or more, that is first, second, or third. 3-way tie for first counts. 50-way tie for first. Nope, sorry, didn't do it. Can't do it with all those splits. Got to be top 3. You will get your choice of any 1-month stochastic package as long as you are representing that stochastic avatar. Tweet that to Stochastic HOF on Twitter with the screenshot with your avatar visible, and we will celebrate that win. Lofty will induct you into the Hall of Fame, and you will get any stochastic 1-month package. That is up to a $200 value because you can pick anything that you would like. Check that out. Have some fun with it. Greg, here on our game with, this is the one that it's less exciting. You have Cleveland favored by 10 in San Antonio. You've got Jarrett Allen was hurt in the last game. That was Thursday night. He injured his ankle. So there's a decent chance he misses tonight. You have Evan Mobley back, but on a minutes limit. He played 2 games, then sat out the second end of a back-to-back here in anticipation of this game. He's going to play likely between 20 and 22 minutes. We could see Darius Garland in for similar run. So people are starting to come back here finally for Cleveland. It is a 3-4 for them. Of course, they didn't play last night, but this is still the 3rd game in 4 nights. And they play again. They don't play again until Wednesday. So they are kind of in an interesting spot here. And then on the other side, you have San Antonio. And San Antonio lost by a point last night. It looked like they were going to get New Orleans there. They lost 114-113. You had Devin Vassell play 36 minutes, Trey Jones 35, Jeremy Sohan 31, Champagny 30, Wemby 28. He had 19, I think it was 19 in the first half, and he ended up playing 28 minutes there. The bench was kind of 5 people played between 13 and 20 minutes. But the big questions here, do we need somebody out to make Donovan Mitchell look good here? That somebody would be Jarrett Allen. And how are you feeling about Wemby tonight? It sounds like Collins is going to be out because of the back-to-back. Keldon Johnson, questionable, hurt his elbow last night, but a lot of times he doesn't play on these back-to-backs. Pop has said he's managing the minutes for Wemby up to 30. He hinted that there are no back-to-back restrictions here. We got a lot to unpack with this one. Start us off with the Cavs. Are the Sims just saying no Cavs for us tonight?
So there's nothing to like from Cleveland, in my opinion. If you're going to play Donovan Mitchell, it's going to come with the opportunity cost of being to get up to Luka, because Donovan Mitchell's gotten to be very expensive because of the time that Darius Garland missed, the time that Evan Mobley missed. But these guys are back now. So here's what's happening. Donovan Mitchell is priced as if Garland and Mobley are not playing, but they are playing. And then in addition to that, you've got him at a peak in terms of the price. You've got other pay-up options on the slate. So there's issues to me with getting to Cleveland. It's just the inverse of what we look for in value. The entire team's priced if players are going to be out. Those players are mostly back. The situation does change a little bit if Jared Allen is ruled out. I'm not exactly sure what Cleveland would do in the front court. Maybe Damian Jones has to end up starting in that kind of scenario, because I don't think that they're going to all of a sudden just go ahead and play Evan Mobley 30-plus minutes of starters minutes. They seemingly want to be cautious with him. So I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach with Jared Allen. But if Jared Allen's in, there's nothing to like from Cleveland.
All right, that makes sense. And good call out on Jones there. I was looking a little bit. He's kind of their in emergencies break glass player. He falls out of the rotation, then he pops up for 12 to 14 minutes, sort of depending on matchups, etc. here. But he could be someone that's dusted off, though. As we learned, or as we were reminded earlier this week with was it DeAndre Jordan. Sometimes when you think somebody's going to play, they may not. Shout out to Jordan actually making it off the bench last night, and Zeke Naji not playing. Grumble. We do have some interesting stuff here on the other side, Greg. That would be the Spurs side. I'm going to assume Collins is out. How are you feeling about the status for Johnson? And then I know everybody's a huge fan of Mobley, but you have been leading the charge that the salary algorithms are not yet understanding that if he plays 28 to 30 minutes, he is really going to rack up the fantasy points. Last 5 games that he's hit that mark, he's averaging just over 50. That's 50 fantasy points per game. An absurd, I believe it's, I didn't incorporate last night's stats, but I think it's like 5 stocks per game in that stretch as well. Take us through the Spurs and budding talent, Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, so I love Wemby, but the problem with any pay-up option is going to be tonight, do you want to pay up for this guy or do you want to pay up for Luka Doncic? And the answer to me every single time is going to be Luka tonight. So we have Wemby projected for north of 50 fantasy points. That's, pretty solid relative to where he's priced. He is 10,200 on FanDuel, and then on DraftKings, Wemby is currently priced at 9,400. So yeah, just over 50 fantasy points. Doesn't look bad at that kind of price point. Here's the issue though, EMac, like I just said, his 50 fantasy point projection is more than 20 fantasy points less than we have Luka projected for. So that's just the opportunity cost with any other pay-up option on the slate. I love Wemby. I am slightly overweight to him. We have him projected for 9.6% ownership. I have him in 12% of my lineups right now. It's not any kind of massive stand, but I am keeping up my currently existing streak of being overweight to Wemby on just about, I'm pretty sure, every slate the Spurs have been on for the last 2 or 3 weeks now. But there's a reason his ownership is low, and it's because I'd rather pay up for Luka tonight. The player that I do get the most to from the Spurs right now is Tre Jones. Tre Jones has done a couple of things for the Spurs. First off, he's given them an actual point guard presence on the court. Earlier in the year, they're starting Jeremy Sochan at point guard. They're bringing Tre Jones off the bench, and they've really struggled to get Wembanyama the ball in San Antonio when they didn't have a true point guard on the court. So the reason that Wemby's taken off, part of it is because he's a young and very talented player, he's a generational prospect, and he's improved. Another part of it, though, is playing with Tre Jones has enabled them to easier get the ball to Wemby because Tre Jones is an actual point guard, and he's a good one as well. So Tre Jones, we've seen him take a big uptick in terms of his workload because his playing time has really helped elevate Wembanyama as well. So if you look at the last few games, 35.5 minutes, 34.5 minutes, 32.5 minutes for Trey Jones. He looks like a guy who's locked into somewhere in the mid 30s minutes, and the field isn't really reacting that way. So we've got him projected for just over 30 fantasy points. That is enough to get him into 37.3% of my lineups. I've got Jeremy Sochan showing up in some lineups as well. Champagnie, somebody else as a punt play who is not projecting particularly great for us, but with the potential that Keldon Johnson isn't going to end up playing. We don't have him listed as in right now. Champagnie, somebody we have picking up some extra minutes, as well as Sochan. So a couple of guys that are viable contrarian plays, but not core options from anything like that. Trey Jones, somebody I'm pretty aggressively overweight to.
All right, that most definitely makes sense there. Do you mind if I borrow the screen share for a moment here?
Go for it.
I am taking over. So I wanted to show you guys just for a minute Odd Shopper here. Excuse me, because Odd Shopper is a very, very powerful tool that allows you to sort through all sorts of betting opportunities, and this does include the pick'em site. So what I've got set here is a quick filter on Odd Shopper. I searched just for Victor Wembanyama, and I said only show me the pick'em sites because I wanted to see if anybody had some fantasy point numbers up there, and we can see that Better, BETR, that is Better. They have have it available now because it's a back-to-back. A lot of sites don't have these players up just yet, but you can see a 44 projected fantasy point total. That's similar to what it was last night. And as Greg mentioned, we have seen him hit pretty much 40, 48, 49 or higher each of his last several games. If you can't get him into your DFS site, you want to look for something like this to help arbitrage that value. That can be very, very helpful. I'll drop the link here to, or the splash page here for Better. But if you guys sign up there, coming in through our promo code, you will get a deposit match up to $500 on your first deposit. That is something that is very, very useful. But you can see here, we can quickly look at all sorts of things. Victor Wembanyama. This is the new and improved Odd Shopper, $14.95 per week. It is $49.95 per month. You can see here our expert page. This will be populated with more and more wagers throughout the day. But if you are a premium member, you will get quickly everybody's recommended plays. You can also get that in our Discord. There's a Discord channel just dedicated to everybody's plays. Plus, Discord channel is broken out by sports. You also can use the positive EV bets tool. This is key. Greg, it is geographically adjusted, but I will say when the Hard Rock Casino, I'm in Florida, when they post their bets, they now appear for me on our Odd Shopper page. But if you are in a state that is less enlightened and you want to check some things out there, both for the projection pages or just see what's going on in the sports wagering world, you can do so. You can see this is what we talk about shopping the odds here. So if we look at Josh Hart, we can see this wager, his rebounds, the under is plus 130. That comes out with the best Odd Shopper rating that we have and a 7% implied or positive ROI. But just looking across here, you can see Bet365. Remember, we mentioned them. Bet5, get 150 back. Bet365 plus 130. All the way down here on some of the other bucks. Caesars only plus 100. That's a 3% difference right there in your ROI just by shopping the bets and getting the more appropriate number or the best number, if you will. Very, very helpful, but you can look at all the books for any of these wagers. You can sort by player. You can sort specifically by league. You can break it down by the different bet categories. If you want to look at player futures, team bets, etc., you can find all of that here at Odds Shopper. All righty, Greg. Anything you want to add to on Odd Shopper other than it's lining your pockets nicely yet again?
Just if you sign up with the promo code Greg and use the link below, you also get yourself 20% off. So, no reason to not take advantage of a little bit of a discount, but no, nothing else. Just if you guys do want to check out Odd Shopper, you get access to our Plus EV betting model, you get access to our Discord, which has myself, Eric, Ben Raza, all the guys are in the Discord channel. We post some of our favorite bets in there, and you do get access to that for 20% off when you sign up using that link below and the promo code Greg. But yeah, nothing else.
All right, then let's move on to our final matchup of the night. Again, we've got the bolus games going off at 8:30. No real late night hammers. It's sort of a triple feature here, but everything's tipping off within an hour of each other. We have the Los Angeles Lakers, 4.5-point underdogs as they head into Madison Square Garden, taking on the New York Knickerbockers, 226. Implied point total here. Key things to remember. Not only is Cam Reddish out, probably going to be out through the All-Star break. Jared Vanderbilt injured his foot in the last game. He is likely to be out for close to or essentially probably the All-Star break as well. As Greg mentioned earlier, you've got Davis and LeBron listed as questionable. The Lakers last played on Thursday. They play again on Monday in Charlotte. And on the New York side, we want to remember no Julius Randle. He is going to be out through the All-Star break, dislocated his shoulder, severe dislocation of his shoulder. You have Grimes is out tonight with a knee issue. And then OG Anunoby has missed the last 3 games with an elbow injury. Elbow inflammation is the official cause. He is questionable tonight. But he could miss a 4th straight game. The Knicks last played on Thursday. They don't play again until Tuesday when they host the Memphis Grizzlies. What do you want to talk about the Lakers here? You sort of set up an if-then with LeBron and Davis, kind of summarize that, and then, hey, I guess you guys are going to have to tune into Live Before Lock when we have better information on this team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else I could add for right now because LeBron James is questionable and Anthony Davis is questionable. A lot of times when they're both questionable to play, we write it off as Fugazi, right, EMac? We go, they're questionable all the time. They both typically end up playing. But that hasn't been the case as of late. Each of them have been missing games. So I do think we have to take their questionable statuses seriously. LeBron didn't play last game. He had to sit out because he was dealing with an injury. Anthony Davis didn't play last game. He had to sit out because he was dealing with an injury. Funny enough, somehow the Lakers pulled off their best win of the entire season on the road in Boston. They won by 9 points with neither LeBron or AD out there last game. And also, it's not just the last game that AD missed. He's missed 2 games in a row. So we do have to take their injuries very seriously for tonight. We can't just assume that they're going to play. If they do play, there's nothing really like from the Lakers because players are priced up with AD and LeBron having missed time. And in addition to that, we don't have to rehash the situation yet with Luka Doncic, but I'm not going to prioritize playing LeBron James or Anthony Davis over Luka. What does become really interesting, though, is if LeBron plays and AD sits, then LeBron looks really good. If AD plays and LeBron sits, AD looks really good. So we're going to need some extra information here to really know what it is that we want to play from the Lakers. If AD and LeBron are both out, I'm really curious to see what the ownership is going to look like. What I expect the field to do is to go pretty heavily towards Jackson Hayes. He was solid 2 games ago. Last game, he was great at low ownership while Christian Wood was chalk. I think this is a really interesting spot, EMac, to do kind of like the bounce back chalk type scenario where there's a reason why people played Christian Wood really heavily last game and weren't on Jackson Hayes. Christian Wood is a far better fantasy producer than Hayes. But what happened last game? Hayes started. He played really well. Wood came off the bench. He shot 1 of 8 from the field and then just got benched because Jackson Hayes was playing really well. Christian Wood wasn't. I think there's a very live scenario here that Jackson Hayes, and this is once again assuming that AD and LeBron are both out, there's a very realistic scenario. Jackson Hayes starts, doesn't play all that well because he isn't good. Christian Wood comes off the bench and does play well from a fantasy perspective and gets himself more minutes than Jackson Hayes. While also, I assume Christian Wood would be lower owned than Jackson Hayes in this scenario after what happened last game. So we need more information here, but there is a scenario where Christian Would look like a really interesting leverage play off of Jackson Hayes in the event that LeBron and AD both sit.
All right. We've been informed that there's no way that Jackson Hayes can play with Anthony Davis. This is important.
But the whole premise here is that in this scenario, LeBron James and Anthony Davis are both out. So what does it matter?
No, but I'm highlighting the most important part here.
All right. So if LeBron and AD are both out, then Jackson Hayes can't play with Anthony Davis?
Not if he's in the same building.
Well, I understand.
This is the way I'm reading. This is the way I'm reading this information. If Anthony Davis is within eyesight of Jackson Hayes, he can't play well.
This is why it's correct, though, EMac. How could he ever play with Anthony Davis if Anthony Davis is out? See, that's
clearly not choose the drink in front of me because
that's the angle.
That's where you put.
That's the angle. Well, either way, we don't have enough information here to know what to play from. LeBron James and Anthony Davis are both questionable. Until we get official word on whether they're in or out, it is very difficult to break down the Lakers. We don't know what the ownership is going to be in this spot. We don't know if LeBron or AD. I have no real read on if these guys are going to be in or out. I consider both of them 50-50 as of now. We'll have more info later on Live Before Lock.
All right, and Power got in there. Power, I'm not picking on you because this is one of my favorite things. But the Madison Square Garden angle. Yeah, LeBron and AD have each played there a gazillion times. I don't think that's that big of a deal. Plus they play in Los Angeles for half their games. Isn't that exciting? We'll see. Jalen Brunson angry that he was not chosen as an All-Star starter. Now there's some thought there. He could be over Damian Lillard. I mean, you could also argue Trae Young, a couple other guards could be in there over Damian Lillard. But one, Brunson, awesome. Two, look at his I didn't look at them for today, but I'm sure his point projection prop is somewhere between 30.5 and 31.5. And he has just been outstanding. How are you feeling about the Knicks as we wind down our show, Greg?
Yeah, so the Knicks are another team that I do think we want to be getting to. Most notable piece of injury news is that OG Anunoby is currently listed as questionable to play. If Anunoby doesn't go, there's a ton of playing time to fill, especially because with Julius Randle out, like you had mentioned before, Randle's expected to be out. It's another, like 3 weeks or so until Julius Randle is going to be back on the court. So with OG Anunoby being questionable, Anunoby in the games without Julius Randle, we've seen Anunoby play upwards of like 37, even as high as 43 minutes in some games with the Knicks. Now, Anunoby's been out for the last few games. If he remains out, well, then we're looking at Isaiah Hartenstein, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, Jalen Brunson, Precious Achiuwa, all playing really big minutes for the Knicks, especially because Quentin Grimes is out in addition to these guys. And Quentin Grimes was the guy who's been playing the biggest minutes off the bench for the Knicks in the absence of some of these other players. So I'm really interested to see what happens with Anunoby. This could be a super condensed rotation for the Knicks. If we do get the scenario that Anunoby is out, Miles McBride is somebody who I think the Knicks just kind of become forced to play big minutes because of how shorthanded they are. If you start to look at like, all right, no Julius Randle, no Quentin Grimes, no OG Anunoby, then it's, all right, where do we project the minutes to go to? And I don't see any way that we wouldn't give Miles McBride a fairly significant amount of minutes. So he would be a good punt option. I mean, already as is, he's a serviceable punt option in the absence of Quentin Grimes. But we're talking about somebody who would make his way into like half my lineups or something like that if Anunoby is out as well. As for other players on the Knicks, Jalen Brunson, it's the same issue. He's playing really well, but he's gotten to be expensive. And I'd rather pay up for Luka Doncic than Jalen Brunson. Dante DiVincenzo, Isaiah Hartenstein, Miles McBride. These are my core plays from the Knicks. The guys who, relative to the price points, benefit the most from the scenario with Julius Randle, Quentin Grimes both being out, as well as Anunoby being questionable.
All righty. This is going to be a fun day. We have NBA, of course. The NHL is on their All-Star break. We do have college basketball tipping off at noon. Another big bolus of games at 4, and then I think another round at 7. Matt Kajeski has those projections up already for that noon slate. I've already got my lineups in there. There's MMA. I believe that is at 4 or 4:30 today. Any MMA call-outs you want to give as we wrap up, since we have a hot minute here? Greg, I know that you are well ensconced in the mixed martial arts sports, and I know you were chatting with some people in chat. Would you like to verbalize anything for the MMA slate tonight?
I have a video up on the YouTube. Actually, I have a couple videos up on the YouTube channel. So if you guys are looking for more information, go watch those. I did one with Brady from DFS by the Numbers. We're doing a weekly show together on Wednesdays, and that's more like a core plays type video. We talk about the main event. We talk about our favorite pay-up option, mid-range play, and our favorite value option. And then there's another video that I do, which is using our sims. So I do a full slate breakdown and show that right after weigh-ins, what some of my exposure are looking like at that point in time. So if you guys want more MMA content, go check out the videos that are up on the YouTube channel.
All right. I'm going to drop one of those in there. That is your solo video. You guys can find those on the Odds Shopper landing page there over on YouTube. It's always good. And hit that subscribe button. We just hit 96,000 subscribers. Of course, sister site Odds Shopper, Greg, Odds Shopper is almost at 120,000 subscribers. That is pretty crazy. Stochastic, we're still chugging along. We're still here. Odd Shopper. We're still here. And, a lot of your information is coming from stochastic models. Just want to say, Odd Shopper, be careful. Be careful. Don't forget who brought you here, who brought you into this world. We're going to slide on out of here, Greg. They can catch us. You guys can all catch us again tonight at 6:30, 7:30 lock tonight. Very compressed slate. Everything going off within 1 hour. They're using those last 5 games. We, of course, have projections and all of the tools set up for the earlier NBA action, as well as all the other sports going on today, which should be a fun one. You guys can follow Greg over on Twitter at G Ehrenberg DFS. I am at EMac DFS. And of course, it is stochastic_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.